Welcome to a different side of the inside. I'm here with Lonnie. We're going to continue our conversations. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about emotions. I'll deal with emotions. I was looking it up the other day, and it was so many emotions. We have fears. We can be happy. We can be sad. We can be angry. We can be surprised. It's so many, depressed or whatever. It's so many emotions
Right,
that we have, and they're housed inside of us. And they can, to 1 minute, you could be laughing, cracking up, rolling on the floor. And someone could say something, do something to change your mood just within seconds. And so we want to talk a little bit about emotions because Lonnie is in prison. And as you know, he was sentenced 213 years at age 17. So he was put in a prison with adults. So he's been there now for 29 years. And so he grew up in prison. And to me, that's an emotional thing. I'm looking at it, but I also know the way I'm looking at it, it's emotional to me. I also know you can't show your emotions all the time when you're in that situation. And especially if you're a man, because what do we do to little boys? We tell little
right,
boys, men don't cry. We tell little boys, you have to be tough. Don't cry. Suck it up. But girls can cry all over the place. They can fall out. They can do whatever. But we have pounded this standard into our young men where some of them, when they don't show emotions, you like, oh, you got a cold heart, or you this or that.
right.
But I want to ask Lonnie a couple of questions about being a man, going into prison at age 17, and those initial emotions that you may have had when you realized you were getting ready to start living your life behind those walls. How did that make you
Right.
feel?
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. I remember the moment when all of it hit me that in prison for a while. And I just left the county jail, and it was a day before my birthday, January 29th, 1996. And I had to be state prison where I went as a reception prison. Um, and they was calling our names one by one, and they all skinny. And I got up, handcuffed, shackled from head to toe. And as soon as I stepped off the bus, there was a gun tower right there, and it was an officer standing there with a shotgun. And right then they hit me. Wow, now I'm in prison. And as you walk in, you have to form a circle in the day room, and they take the handcuffs off you, they take the leg shackles off, and it's down, naked, right here in this circle amongst 40 men, 41, 42, 40,
Oh,
however
wow.
many men. And they do the search, they call it the dance, do the dance, where you have to show your in between your fingers and behind your ears, make sure you're not concealing anything. And I didn't know what the dance was, of course. So, but one of the officers had to assist me, like, oh, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, whatever. And they assign me a cell, and they have what they call orientation, pre-orientation. So they call you out of the cell, and one of the counselors call you in the office and talk to you and ask you how old you are. And as soon as I stepped in, I looked so young, didn't have any hair on my face. I'm 150 pounds, and your mother know where you are. And it was that moment right there, like I knew that I would be here for a while. And of course, like you said, growing up, my emotions, and I kind of was emotional on the inside. You can't show your emotions, and I kind of showed them on the inside when you're laying up in your bed and you're standing on the door and you're just watching the everyday functioning of prison. You ask yourself like, how long do I think I'm gonna be here? Anybody care for me? I'm not gonna get mail because I see people getting mail. I see people going to the canteen and stuff like that, and just knew that I would be here for a while. And they sent me to the permanent prison. They sent me here to where I am now, 27. So that was almost 60 days later, March 27th, 96, into this prison. And, the prison was so fresh. It was brand new. Nobody was here and stuff like that. They allowed us to pick our own jobs and stuff like that. But, and my brother and my cousin was here. They came later, but we were all here together. And it was like, wow, this is going to be my residence for a while. And, people get what we call institutionalized, by calling the jail their house. Get this out of my house. Can I go in my home real quick and stuff like that? And it's called it the cell, and I will until I get out. And, there's people, when I was growing up, give up on myself and stuff like that. So those things stayed with me. And most of it was on the inside. Most of it was on the inside, and I suppressed the emotions and stuff like that. But emotions that you have to keep those things bottled up. And unfortunately, sometimes keeping those emotions bottled up can burst.
Yeah.
And, there's acts of violence, and there's mental health issues, and there's situations where people have, because they couldn't, deal with, not being at home, not being in society and stuff like that. But I'm from a strong team. My mother and father and grandmothers, they were strong. I have those genes.
So, were there any time? Can you remember a time where you actually? I mean, I know we have you had to keep your emotions bottled up and for different reasons. But was there a time when you just couldn't, and that you actually allowed yourself to cry?
Yes, yes. And what's interesting is, the worst thing that you can ever hear in prison is you have an emergency phone call, and I've become accustomed to hearing that. I've lost a lot of people that I love the most in the world since I've been in prison, and those emotions wasn't immediate when I heard who died, and stuff like that. It was kind of like something that kind of went along as time did. But and there comes times when you just break down, and it all comes out with what we call the ugly cry.
Yeah.
You just have those. You have those instances that you're gonna have those, and one of my in prison, been in prison for 44 years. He always say, every now and then you have to uh, allow your soul to go to the White House, and
Right.
just ring it out, just let it all go, man. And I've
Yeah, and I think that it's important. It's not a sign of weakness. We can't
no
just keep this stuff in to the point where you, like you said, it will cause mental
like
illness. It will cause people to break down, become suicidal, and what have you, because you just can't pack it in because it's there all the time. Recently,
right.
a couple of months ago, I had something happen and it really hurt me. And you talking about the ugly cry? I was at home by myself, and I had the ugly cry. It was like
Right.
And because it was bottled up, and I was saying, okay, whatever, I'm going on with my day, and then it just kept
Right.
building up, and I knew I had to stop and let it out, because that's what we have to do
Right.
sometimes. We have to stop, let it out, regroup, and then move on,
Right.
because we can't. If we
Right.
don't, we'll take it with us and keep taking it with us. So,
Right.
another thing about emotions, because when you first got in there, and I understood when you told me this, that you were angry. At 17 years old and being sentenced 213 years, I think anybody would be angry. So those emotions were building up in you, but you got into fights
Right.
and you wanted to fight. And I hear you, because I would have been angry too. And so when
Right.
those things happen, did
This
you
call and your telephone number will be
you
monitored and
fought?
recorded.
Did you feel better after the fight?
I didn't. I didn't. It was only temporary satisfaction. And of course, this is one of the ways that you can get in touch with your emotions the way that you need to. But you think, a fight would see what you're going through, but it really doesn't. Um, how can I put it? It's almost like um, you, it's almost like a drug that you don't have regular access to. So you get high for a few minutes, and then you have to go and search for that drug again. But
Yeah.
no, it's not really gratifying. It's not really satisfaction or anything like that until you do the work to actually compartmentalize your emotions. And of course, if they're used in the right way, then you have good emotions. And if you just fly off the handle all the time, and just let me say it like this. It's almost like when I came to prison, I was angry, yes, and I was angry because I was here, yes, but
Mm-hmm.
I was more angry when I understood my entire life. So it wasn't necessarily a bad anger, but I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't know how to compartmentalize my anger and my resentment towards certain people, and I wanted just to be around the people that I love the most in the world, and I didn't know how to kind of navigate back to them. So
Mm-hmm.
anger, and emotions, and whatever else was going on in my mind and in my heart at that time, I was just bitter. I never really blamed anybody for anything, but I did, put my entire life on the table. Stood. Why? And, what I'm saying?
Right.
And, a lot of the abuse that
You have 60 seconds remaining.
a lot of the abuse that I suffered when I was young, I was really, really exposed to substance abuse, and I was exposed to drug use and alcoholism and things like that. And unfortunately, those are the things that make people angry. And like they always say, hurt
Hurt
people.
people. Yeah.
So, that's what it was.
Yeah. And that's the truth.
Yeah,
That's just the truth.
it is.
I heard a man say today on a video. He said he came out of brokenness, so he was used to being broken. That's where his emotions and everything was, and so that's why it was easy for him. He was talking about relationships with women. He said that's why it was
Right,
easy for him to break them
right,
because he
right.
wasn't. If they wasn't broken, it was like something was wrong.
Yeah,
Okay, we're back. So yeah, so when our emotions are, we have to keep our emotions intact, and that takes discipline. That takes discipline. because